Igor. You guys, thank you so much for coming. We're on the last part of our show, so thanks for hanging in. Still important stuff to be heard, and probably the most important is up next. People who have experienced abortions themselves, who want to talk to you guys about their experience. Do you feeling up for that? All right, where are my next speakers? Oh, you're here. Perfect. Come on up and give a little introduction and talk a little about your experience so we can kind of know what it's like. Okay, Jennifer, please come on up first. Yeah, thank you.
I've told my abortion story several times before. And as I was thinking about telling it today, all right, here, I realized that every time I've told it, the story is a little different. Different parts of it become more or less important. The facts are obviously the same, but the meaning of it for me has changed over time. It's like looking at a story through different camera angles. And I realized last night when I was trying to decide if I was going to write something out or wing it, that I don't look at my abortion through such a tight camera angle anymore. I have a much wider view. And so today, my abortion story is this. When I was 19 years old, a sophomore at U of M, I had an abortion. I was 5 weeks pregnant. My abortion was neither trivial nor tragic. My abortion was both commonplace and uniquely my own. I am one of the 1 in 3 women who have had an abortion. And that's it. There once was a time when I would have balked at 5 minutes to tell my story because I could tell you every single detail from that day. But at this point, I feel the most important thing for me to tell is, yes, I have had an abortion. I'm still a good person. It is only one piece of my life that makes me, me. And it's not the most important piece. I won't qualify it or explain it any more than that. I had an abortion.
I didn't write my story out because I just need to tell it each time I tell it from my heart. And I have to say thank you, Jen, because even though I encouraged every one of you to be stigma busters and to speak out, it's never easy to tell your story again. So my voice is starting to shake a little. I had an illegal abortion when I was 15 years old. It was 1966. I was pregnant. There was no over-the-counter pregnancy test. There certainly was no ultrasounds. I just missed my period. And then I spotted the 2nd month and I prayed that was really a period. My mom took me to the doctor when I was probably about, what I know now, probably about 15 weeks pregnant. And the doctor told my mother, she's gonna have a baby. Now my mom was 6 months pregnant with my younger sister. I was 15 years old. My boyfriend and I were getting packed up to get married. And for some reason they were gonna ship us off to Ohio. But in 1966, girls didn't finish high school if they had a baby. They certainly didn't get abortions, or actually I didn't know what the word meant. And that was gonna be the end of my education. Between 10th and 11th grade, I would have dropped out of high school. I would not have been allowed to finish. My boyfriend would have been, who was gonna be my husband, who was 16 years old. So my parents came to me one night and said, do you wanna have an abortion? I said, I don't know, will I be on punishment? Well, actually, let me just back up for a second to tell you that I'm probably a teenage pregnancy statistic. I probably got pregnant in the first month that I had sex, and I was terrified. I didn't know what the hell I was gonna do. So I remember laying in the bathtub one night. I filled up the bathtub full of water. I took one of my dad's razor blades, and I was gonna commit suicide. I cut my finger, it hurt really bad, and I chickened out of that. I probably would have had a baby and been in labor if my mom hadn't taken me to the doctor, because there's no freaking way I could look at my mother and say I was pregnant. So my parents asked me if I wanted an abortion. They explained to me what it was, and all I knew, it was like God reaching down from heaven and giving me a second chance at my life. I would have done anything. My boyfriend's father was a state representative in Michigan, and he had a few more contacts than my family did. He also had a little more money. My parents were, we paid $6,000, I think my parents paid $6,000 for a house in that year, and my abortion was $1,200. My boyfriend's dad raised the money. What am I doing on time? Arrangements were made. Now, this was 1966. We didn't even have our own phone lines. People shared phones. I know it's hard for you guys to believe, but we had a party line, so everybody spoke in code. Arrangements were made for my parents to take me to a meeting spot. I want to tell you this story because I really want you to know I'm one of the very few women still around who had an illegal abortion. All those stories are dying. I hope I'm around a little longer, but thank you. So a meeting place was arranged, and my dad took me. My dad, the first generation American, Arabic, never said the word Kotex, God forbid. He was afraid something would happen to my mother, and he couldn't lose two of the girls in his life. So he took me. We went to a parking lot, and we met some man in a van, or some kind of car, I don't know. We were blindfolded, we got into a car, both of us, and when we were unblindfolded, we were in a warehouse. I don't remember very much about that because I was afraid to look. There were chairs, there were card table chairs, there were a lot of women, and it was a greasy, dirty floor, so we were in a garage somewhere, a big garage. All I know is that I looked at everybody's feet because I was afraid if I looked up, they wouldn't do my abortion. I was probably a little farther along. I was farther along than they anticipated. So they packed my uterus with gauze. They sent me home and waited for me to expel the pregnancy. So in code, my parents were talking to whoever. I'm pretty sure it wasn't a doctor. Fortunately, one of my mother's doctors, not the one who told me I was going to have a baby, but another one, offered to take care of me if there were any problems. And he couldn't get involved because he could have lost his medical license. But when my uterus was packed, he bought me antibiotics, brought them to the house. It's probably the only reason I wasn't sterile, probably the only reason I'm still alive. My abortion didn't work, and within 5 days, I was meeting at another meeting place where they packed my uterus with gauze again. I went into labor sometime within the next 24 hours, and I lived in Highland Park. These were row houses. You could reach your hand out the window and hold your neighbor's hand if they put theirs out the window. So my parents were afraid I would scream, and we were all afraid of being arrested. So my dad took my 3 siblings out in the car and drove them around all day while my mom took care of me. And the nurse from the doctor's office actually came over to help. I was kind of delirious because they were giving me pain pills, but I passed the pregnancy in the toilet. And then my mother was like, what the hell do we do with it? So through another series of phone calls and $200 more, somebody came and picked up my fetus. My mom did ask me if I wanted to see it, and I have to tell you, I didn't. I never asked her what it was. I didn't care. I had a chance to finish high school and to go on with my life. And that's when I know when abortion is not legal. Women will risk their lives and they will die if they're not given the choice. When my abortion was over, my dad came and sat with me and he said, never tell anybody. 1, we could get arrested. to no one will ever want to marry you. And that is not something, I mean, this was 1966, you guys. I will be forever grateful to my parents for being as brave as they were to risk their safety, for letting me say I wanted to risk mine, and for me having the chance to grow up, to get an education, to do the work I love doing, to raise two beautiful daughters. But I will go down fighting for this right. For my daughters and for yours. Thank you.